Hello everyone, I'm Meghan Sullivan and welcome to my bountiful review of Harvestella, developed and published by Square Enix and Livewire for the Nintendo Switch. After nearly 60 hours, the credits have finally rolled, and while I know there are bigger games out there to cover right now, nobody can quiet us, see what I did there, from praising this convoluted yet charming and engrossing agrarian adventure full of snappy combat, quirky characters, and deep philosophical musings about the nature of humanity and its place in the universe. Yep, what starts out as a Rune Factory clone about a heroic amnesiac and a futuristic girl teaming up to try and stop a seasonal disaster known as Quietus ends up being a doctorate-level crash course in humanities. I didn't expect Harvestella to go this hard, but I loved it. The entire story is presented as a jigsaw puzzle, and in order to understand what's really happening in the world, it's up to you to find and put the pieces together by traveling the land and lending a hand to people in need. Some of these people in return will then accompany you on your sojourn, which is handy considering this journey entails exploring monster-infested ruins and magical caves strewn with dangerous flowers. The narrative arc is big, and because some of the story's best-kept secrets, one of which made me gasp out loud, are hidden in side quests and character-focused missions, it's absolutely worth doing as many of these side enterprises as possible. Oh sure, some start off with the usual go fetch an herb or a shiny stone, but every NPC request ends up being its own story, and some, like one seemingly mundane escort mission towards the end of the game, deliver an absolute emotional gut punch, made all the more poignant by a haunting soundtrack and fantastic art direction. Seriously, Harvestella's art direction has no business being as good as it is, and because of that, I'm willing to overlook the perpetual fuzziness that plagues the graphics and the noticeable frame rate drops. The story is just so engrossing. It actually reminds me of Nier, and while it never gets quite that dark, there's a syllabus worth of complex, emotionally heavy questions to ponder, which I enjoyed, even if I didn't quite follow everything the developer was throwing at me, which is a lot. And that is the downside to the story. It gets so big and complex and so unnecessarily drawn out that it becomes obtuse and unwieldy towards the end. And while I was able to piece most of the jigsaw puzzle together, I feel like the developer added some last-minute puzzle pieces that didn't need to be there, and it ends up jumbling things. But even then, the story still managed to hold me in a vice-like grip. So much so that this review was late because I refused to stop playing until I had maxed out all of my friendships and explored every dungeon looking for more clues about the world and the Abels, Cains, Omens, and Seth inhabiting it. Speaking of dungeons, let's talk about combat, which in total contrast to the story is breezy, snappy, and fun. While attempting to better understand the phenomenon known as Quietus, your hero and their eclectic group of allies, which includes a hilariously pedantic unicorn, a very sweet siren, and a mysterious AI lifeform, will fight their way through dungeons full of clever environmental puzzles and loads of quirky monsters. Your hero can take 2 companions with them into a dungeon, while conveniently swapping out stat-buffing accessories, job classes, and one group of allies for another at designated save points. Once you've chosen your companions and equipped yourself with 3 of 10 available job classes, you can then charge forth and make short work of enemies by exploiting their vulnerability to specific weapon attacks and spells. Enemies come at you in bite-sized groups, and the fast pace of enemy encounters and satisfaction of coming up with effective combinations of spells and attacks to take them down quickly entertained me for hours on end. Now, I wish I could remap some of the skills on my controller so that I didn't eat a carrot when I wanted to cast a spell, and I wish my AI allies were a bit smarter than they are. Oh, I also wish the environmental obstacles in late-game dungeons weren't so increasingly absurd. That kind of sucked. But overall, these things are fairly trivial. The freedom and fun of bouncing between being a fighter and a mage while running around dodging AoE attacks outweighed any minor issues I had with enemy encounters. It's just so simple yet so good. I wish I could enjoy the farming as much as I did the fighting. Now don't get me wrong, farming in Harvestella isn't bad and it isn't broken. It's just mundane. almost bare bones. Unlike in Harvest Moon, Rune Factory, or Stardew Valley, there's not a ton to see or do on your farm. Your land isn't very big, you can't customize your farmhouse, your farmland is broken up into sections you have to fast travel between, the developer introduces farming fairies to help you out, but then never bothers to explain their presence, and worst of all, time passes super quickly in this game, which is the opposite of what I want in a relaxing farm simulator. I want to be able to enjoy feeding livestock, exploring dungeons, and engaging in a lively conversation with my neighbors. I don't want to have to rush through dungeons or cut side missions short because it's suddenly almost midnight and I'm in danger of collapsing from exhaustion, which by the way wastes more time and includes a stiff doctor's fee that eats into funds needed to buy crops and upgrade weapons. This lack of time is made worse by the fact that shops close at 8 p.m., and a lot of side missions can't be done after 9 p.m. when the game informs you that you are sleepy and should go home and rest. Who is telling me this? Morgana from Persona 5? Leave me alone! The only exception to this geriatric sleep schedule is character-driven missions that take place in the early evening, like marriage proposals, which open up post-game. I participated in 3 of these because I have multiple save files, and although it's a neat concept, it feels like Livewire and Square Enix added this as an afterthought because it's super anticlimactic. I tried proposing to each of the 3 boys in my heroic alliance, and 2 of those proposals were met with a shrug and big, "sure, I'll be your roommate" energy. Ouch. Maybe I have to play more post-game content to open up more dialogue options, but I doubt it. At any rate, farming isn't bad in Harvestella, it just feels like it's lacking a bit, and although there's no time limit in which you need to complete story beats, I still felt rushed to do everything I wanted to do in a day. Ah well, at least I can pet my farm animals, there's always time for that. And there's always time to enjoy a good game, which Harvestella happens to be. Look, I'm not saying the game is flawless. Its graphics are blurry, its farming mundane, its story increasingly convoluted, and its time management wonky, but there's just something so compelling about its story and satisfying about its combat that I keep wanting to go back for more. It's a tiny game with a big brain and a lot of heart, and I think if you enjoy titles like Nier and Bravely Default, you're going to end up liking Harvestella as well. Or have you already played Harvestella? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. See you later.